Okay, let me just.
Yes, we are live. We are live. All right, so it's a good evening, Maneru, Ndimadekpana, Sanbonan, Emakaya. Welcome to another edition, of course, of Live Chats on Monday, the second season thereof. Senamgela Nonke, wherever you're engaging yourself from and logging in from, you're welcome. And it's great and actually a pleasure really to have you here on this particular Women's Day, as we celebrate, of course, the great women who are doing great things in our nations, one of which is a guest on this show tonight. So yeah, welcome, Dr. Zanele Tlaka. How are you?
Hi, Ronald, and hi, everyone who's watching at home. Thanks for having me today.
No, definitely, most definitely. It's good to have you here. And of course, for those who don't know Zanele, she's a mother of two. She's a wife. She's a medical doctor. She's an author. She's a poet. She's a bass guitarist. She sings. Woman, where do you find the time to do all these things?
Well, you know what? I think the honest truth is that you can't really do all of them at once. So it's more about a prioritization thing, where if I can maybe use a metaphor, it's like juggling balls, but it's a very slow motion juggle in that you have to hold on to the one to actually get it right before you move on to the next, So in a way, you have to prioritize and decide which one of these things needs your focus at a certain time. And it also encompasses quite a bit of sacrifice in terms of, late nights at times. In terms of sometimes having to let go of other things to be able to focus on the things you'd really like to hone your skills in and to achieve,
And I'm thinking you've got all this stuff that you're juggling, all these balls that you're juggling, as it were. And in all of that, where did you get the motivation, you say, to actually then have to add this extra ball to juggle called authoring children's books?
So I guess to say that writing has really been a part of who I've been for the longest of times. I think already as far back as high school, I was writing poetry, entering English Olympiads, that kind of thing. And it progressed to writing poetry, and that's actually poetry is one of the things that brought my husband and I together. And with time, also the one thing that I realized is my love for children, in that, I pursued this career of pediatrics, and I really started finding myself in a purpose for children. And that then also unfolding as being a mother. And it got cemented when I then also took up the responsibility of being part of the Sunday school. Is that I think for me, it really clicked that this is where my purpose is. And so writing for children then in a way just became a natural progression of all of that. And additionally, I can say I must obviously give credit to the man I'm married to. Thabang is a very lateral thinker. And he's someone who I consider to be like a gold mine for ideas. So he actually is someone that will piece together certain things that you may be thinking about and then present you with like a possibility. And so that's what he did for me, where writing for children actually comes into play. So I really have to give my husband some credit for the encouragement he has given me in that regard.
And so with the professional side of life, where you treat children for a living, and then of course volunteering your time, like you say, in children's church, in Sunday school, and of course teaching the young ones, and of course your various interactions, of course being a mother as well, having children, kind of exposed you so much to kids, and I suppose then, like you say, gave you that kind of motivation. So you know what, I need to speak directly to these young minds. Didn't you see it rather than to speak to the parents, rather then they can transfer to the kids? What inside of you said, I need to speak to these young ones directly instead of their parents?
No, I'm glad you asked that. I'll even give you an example for me that made me realize that you need to reach the child directly. One example is with the Sunday school. I was teaching the younger preschoolers, age 3 to 6. That was my class, which is quite a obviously challenging group. But I really enjoyed the challenge, I must say. And then I think with time, you know, the kids were responding to the lessons I was giving and the way I was approaching it. And then I had these young men come join my class, and they were older than 6 years of age. I think their group was about 8 years. They were, if I can say, they would easily be labeled naughty. They really were like quite busybodies. Yeah, I chose to call them the busy boys instead of, you know, the naughty boys, because I believe that the labels you attach to people can actually be long-standing. So they came to join my class, and there's one of them that was, if I can say, a ringleader. He was the most, I think his behavior was the most disruptive. And I made it my intention to actually pay them attention. So I was teaching a story, and then I decided after the story, I'm going to see who was listening. And I was throwing the ball to this one, asking a question, getting an answer. And I threw the ball to one of the ones that is considered the most, you know, unruly, if I can use that word. And he actually answered my question. And I think it was quite baffling to realize that this boy had actually been listening. And perhaps what made him listen was the approach, you know. So realizing that even those very kids that are considered difficult, that are considered to have a difficult behavior, even those kids, if you can reach them directly, you can make such an impact for them. You can actually even change the shape of their lives and their future, because these kids came from a background where the parents were hardly coming to church. These kids would just get on the taxi by themselves. The parents, I tried to reach out, and the parents that you couldn't really speak to, you know. So that's where I realized that as much as you can try to go via the parents, there will sometimes be that gap between child and parent, and it's so much better to actually try and directly speak to or influence kids themselves and engage them, because I think one thing I've realized is how incredible their minds are, you know. I think, for instance, the class I was teaching, there was a belief that these guys, just keep them busy, keep them playing, and then send them out. And I chose to challenge it. I said, no, it can't be. I mean, I have my own kids, 2, 3, and you can see that when you really give them the attention, they actually learn what you're trying to teach. And I chose to rather use that time, instead of just playing and babysitting them, to teach them. And I could see actually the response to that. So I believe that a child's mind is more powerful than we give it credit for, to be honest. And we can engage with their minds even at a very young age.
I think we can add then a superpower to your resume there. So you're actually quite very patient as well, because I know for most adults, unruly kids, you know, there's probably one way in which we deal with them, just to make sure they come right, you know. But I think in all of that, it's been almost a year now since Thabo Spectacles came out. And how's the response been from the people that you've spoken to, who've read the book and who've interacted with it, and whose children are obviously reading the book as well?
Yeah, sure. So it's been amazing. I think for one is just to really appreciate the people who have supported this process, supported the books, you know, by buying them. I mean, the response has been so overwhelming. And what has been great is that a lot of the parents were giving me feedback. Some would send me photos, others would send me videos of the children actually reading. And just, when was it? Just the day before yesterday, I got a call from someone else who said, you know, my kids are just like, you know, when is the next one coming out? And they can't stop reading the book because they actually identify with the characters, you know. So the feedback has really been great. And some of the feedback has been a bit of a tearjerker, if I can say, you know. One of my friends actually related that her son was due to get spectacles just at the time that the book came out, and he was really resisting. And she said, please, I need the book, you know, and she got him the book. And she said when it was time to go, he was like so excited. He was like, you know, he's going to wear his spectacles, and it really helped him. And I find that that's, for me, that was the purpose, you know, of the book, is to help children who are having these refractive errors, who are needing spectacles, to actually recognize that it doesn't make them any less important. It doesn't make them weird, as the last line of the book emphasizes. So that was, yeah, one of the testimonies for me that was quite something. And just to share one more, one of my colleagues bought a book for a friend of hers who has albinism. He's a young boy. I think he's, is he in primary school level? Yeah. And he has albinism, and he really battles with his eyes. And she sent a picture where he's literally sitting like this by the book, you know, trying to read, because he's fighting this thing of spectacles. He's fighting this thing of realizing that his eyes are a problem. And after her getting him the book, he actually embraced the process, and they got him spectacles, and now he feels so much more empowered to be able to, you know, be like other children in the class, be able to read the board, be able to read his books. So yeah, it's been quite a wonderful experience, I must say.
That's some really encouraging feedback right there. I think, you know, like you're saying, it's almost transformational and tear jerking, as you say, as you add there, you know, to just kind of hear some of the few stories that have come back. And I think when I hear that, and I'm thinking now for somebody who's watching us today chat on this live show, what would you say, without of course selling out the whole story, is pretty much the crux or the summary really of the story of Thabo's spectacles? Do these spectacles give him superhero powers or what?
No, no. So the idea behind the book series itself is to try and address medically related issues in a way that will help kids with acceptance. Maybe just while I'm on that, to go back to one of the things that made me feel like I really need to do this, is there was a time, I work in the ICU now most of the time, or all of the time actually. And there was a time we had children who had recently had a limb amputated. And one of those kids, actually one of the kids adjusted very well to it. I was very baffled because he was very young. And then the other one was a bit older, and she struggled so much that we had to try and get means to try and help her. And one of our colleagues found a doll that had a limb removed. So I think seeing those children and how they responded differently, and one was battling, and I thought, but surely there should be something we can do. So this is the idea with the book series. So with Thabo spectacles, so essentially the story just plays out how Thabo's really battling with his eyes, but he's not really realizing that that's the problem. You know, he's seeing things that aren't there. He is struggling in class, and then a very attentive teacher sorry, picks this up, and she realizes that no, this child, there's a problem with the eyes, and she brings this to the attention of the mother, and then the mother takes it further to try and get him help. And with him getting help, she also then tries to help him to deal with whatever bullying may come from it. And in doing that, she actually empowers him such that he goes out there with these spectacles without feeling like he is abnormal. So that's essentially the crux of the story. So it's about a 16-page book, lots of pictures, because children really learn well with pictures, and that's Thabo spectacles in a nutshell.
And seeing, of course, like you said earlier, that it's part of a series, the Thabo and Thabo series, I think, if I get that correctly. Yes. How many are they going to be, and when is the next one coming out?
So as many as I can write. So currently book 2 is ready. It's literally ready to print. What's sort of delaying the process with releasing it is now I'm translating Thabo spectacles and this new book into 4 languages. which is mostly done. It's just now fine-tuning things, and then we're going to go to print soon. So the 4 languages that I've translated to is isiZulu, Tsonga, Chivenda, and Sepedi. So those are the 4 languages I thought to start with. Obviously, with some financial constraints and with time, then to actually translate to all 11 languages. And with enough support, I think, then to extend to other African languages. So for the French-speaking nations, Shona-speaking, really just try and reach as many children as I can with who speak various languages, because it's, for me also, it's important to preserve our languages, our African languages, and this is one of the ways we can do it, is to have our children also learning to read in those languages.
I'm so glad, of course, you touched on the Shona Nation, because I think every author must know that if they want to make it great in this life, they have to translate their work into Shona. I mean, isn't that like a no-brainer?
I have to throw Shona in there.
No, but I'm thinking now, of course, in terms of the effectiveness, I think that the one thing that I kind of want to question here is the effectiveness, if at all there is, of children's books. Now, of course, we read and we enjoy, you know, the Ugly Duckling and all these other classics that we've kind of seen from back in the day. Is it really something that you believe can make a difference in the child's life in future? So yes, now of course Thabo spectacles will make this child want to wear spectacles, but the lessons learned there, do you think they can actually make an impact later on in their lives?
I think definitely so. I think it's a multifaceted thing also, because you have to look at it from the one aspect in that you're developing their love for reading. And I think we all can recognize that some of the most influential people out there are people who were reading a lot of books and who started actually early in their lives reading. So to nurture a love for books, I think, is the greatest gift you can give any individual. A lot of people who probably found themselves in, disadvantaged places or backgrounds, just with the power of books, actually got to do so much. I just recently watched a movie called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. And this is a boy who, I'm trying to remember now, the country he was living in, Malawi. And he was going to school. He was an innovative, sort of a pioneer kind of mind. And that was unrecognized, obviously, in the setting he was in. And he would find a book, and he kept looking through this book, and eventually built a big windmill to help his father generate water so that he can harvest when there is a drought. So, and it's actually a true story. It's not fiction. So just realizing the power of books in that is one of the things that I feel is one of the long-term advantages of books like Thabo Spectacles. The other thing is that the parent-child interaction is something we may underestimate, but it's something that has far-reaching consequences in our lives, and those are positive consequences when you think of a reading together. And there, I think I find examples maybe carry the point a bit better, is that I can give an example of my own father. So my father loved the Afrikaans language. I guess also our parents had to learn the language back in those days. And he would sit me, I remember, I think I was barely 4, 5, 6, I can't remember exactly the age, but I distinctly remember, I have vivid memories of him sitting me on his lap, and we'd sit with an Afrikaans book and we were reading. And it was a sort of a sing-along kind of book, it had that rhythmic quality to it. And we were singing along like this, dit is 'n tafel, dit is 'n lesenaar, that kind of thing. I can still remember some of the words. And because of that, I actually got to be quite good at Afrikaans in school, to the point of taking it all the way to matric. It was actually one of my A's in matric. So that is just in a way, I love languages, and that's one of the ways that my dad imparted in that, is that he started me early with one of the languages that a lot of people consider difficult. And so, yeah, even to this day, I mean, it surprises people when you speak a language like that and they see how fluent you are. And that's thanks to my father sitting me on his lap when I was, still a child. So that's one of the advantages. And I think effectiveness is also that, stories have so much power in that they appeal to a child's imaginative mind. And a lot of us can already say how much we remember some of the stories we learned in childhood, and even some of the songs that we learned at the time. A lot of people still go back to, oh, what song were we singing when we were learning the continents, or when we were learning whatever concept they were trying to teach us. And you still remember the song as a 30, 40-year-old individual. So that for me is that the life lessons that you can bring out in books like Thabo Spectacles, to say that what you have on the outside, or whatever disability you're having, does not make you any less important, does not make you weird. That is something that will stay with someone. And that stays with them throughout their life. But I think we tend to focus a lot on, and I think we all know the quote of, it's easier to build healthy children than it is to fix broken adults. And so many broken adults relate a story from their childhood that actually broke them. And some of them will tell you they're very young at that time when whatever it is that happened. So I really believe very strongly that we can actually change the adults that will be by influencing the children that are today.
Now that's good to hear. Clearly you're on a life-changing mission here. Like I said earlier, the transformative power of books. I absolutely believe in that. And I actually remember when you're speaking there's a book that they used to read to me. I think it was Thomas the Train or the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, and it's going up the hill, and I think I can.
Yeah.
I remember that. I think I can. And this is from primary school already.
And look at what you're achieving now, Mr. guys.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I think just on that, when I Dr. Zanele, I'm thinking you've got so much creativity then that you've got going on in that head of yours, and that you'd like to teach obviously our children, and then for them to learn all these life lessons. At what point do you think we should be also helping you then to become the next Roald Dahl, as it were? What do we need to do to elevate people like you with ideas like this to get to that level where your work is actually global or universal, if we can say?
So, yeah, I think the platforms make all the difference. The support makes all the difference. And one of the things I can say to that is that as much as there's a writer like myself, there needs to be someone who put the work out there, because some of us are self-publishing, given the challenges with going with established publishers. And so you have platforms like Ethnic Kids who put children's books to the fore and put them online and make them accessible, so that I don't have the headache of now having to find a distributor and all of that, and be disadvantaged by going the route that I'm going with self-publishing. So I think it's for all of us to really apply ourselves in our various spheres of influence, for someone who works with children to say, look, I've had a look at your books, can we do 1, 2, 3? And I think that's how the reach continues, is that for us to be like-minded also, in a way, is if someone else realizes the value of reading for children, then that's how we continue to grow in trying to expand the reach. So yeah, I think if that answers the question, is the support, yeah, the platforms, invitations to actually engage children, with a sort of a reading atmosphere. Those, I think, are some of the things I can think of off the top of my head.
No, that's good, and I think, of course, we'll obviously try and, as much as we can, in our own small way, try and, like you say, elevate these issues and bring them to the fore, like with this example of this chat that we're having today here. And I'm thinking, of course, as with everything artsy, there's a bit of a dark side as well to children's books. So much that some of them have been banned even over time. A Wrinkle in Time is one of those controversial ones. The Harry Potter series, and what they apparently teach in there. Now, I'm thinking, well, you as a Christian, yeah, sure, but as an author, is it something we should really be concerning ourselves with in this postmodern era that we live in? I mean, everything goes, right?
No, so this is the challenge I've had, and I think that's where, as a parent, you can't really turn a blind eye to what your kids are exposed to. You really cannot afford to do that. And I say that because every doctrine, every school of thought can find its voice and have its influence, and that's where you as a parent have the role for screening that content, and deciding what you feel is acceptable and what is not, because it does affect your children, and it is important what they're exposed to. So that's why I always feel, and that's one thing my husband and I always say, is that you can complain about the content that's out there that's not really conducive, or you can actually create it and put it out there and give children a healthier alternative, a wholesome alternative. And that's what Tlaka Media is about. We want to put wholesome content out there. So I don't believe that all things are permissible. And that's why I feel that we need to give an alternative. People have the right to decide what is acceptable for them and what is not. And those of us who feel strongly for one cause must put across the content and give that alternative, because if there isn't an alternative, then it's quite obvious that the influence will be a certain way, yeah.
And I think for someone who's watching now and asking themselves, but my child is only 2, my child is only 3, is there a mark, you would say, potentially an age that we should really start reading to our children? Or is it something that we should wait until school? And I ask this because one of my friends we're actually having a chat with just said just how his child didn't actually go to preschool. And by the time they went to grade 1, the teachers were almost commenting on how the child had missed out on so much because they weren't exposed to anything prior to them coming to a formal educational setting. So when would you say or encourage that we start reading to our children from your perspective?
Honestly, from the womb. And I mean, I don't say that in a facetious way. I really believe that you need to read to them as early as possible. I remember someone saying to me, "Oh no, I can't buy the book. My child is barely a year old. She's just gonna tear it apart." And I said, "Let her tear it apart." That creates for her that experience, turning a page, looking at the pictures. And also, that some of the younger children who can't read can actually still tell you the story. And with the aid of pictures. I don't know how many parents have said to me, she doesn't follow the words, but when she goes for the book, she opens it and she'll tell me the story. "Oh, Thabo walking to the park." And my 3-year-old does the same thing. She can tell me Thabo's spectacles from cover to cover, just purely by looking at the picture and making her own words as she goes. So you really can't start too early. I mean, for the very little ones, if you are worried about waste and having them tear your book, there are really hardcover books that have very simple. I used to buy those for my girls, where it'll have one page with like one word, and it still gives them that experience of a book, and it's hard enough for them not to damage it. So as early as possible. That's my answer to that question.
And one of the benefits you spoke about earlier, you know, of reading to children, these children's books, is the stimulation of the imagination. And I think I struggle on a personal level anyway with my daughter, because every time I try to read her a story or tell her a story, she always has her own additions. She has a wildly imaginative mind that she ends up hijacking the story so much that the one day she even went all the way to the end when I had just already only told her half the story.
Yeah.
Now, how do I deal with this wild imagination that my child has? And I'm trying to tell her a story. No, this is how the story goes, but she has her own way of how the story should go. What can I do, doctor?
You allow that. That's what I say. You really must allow that. And clearly, it sounds like you have a storyteller on your hands, and you even encourage her to make up her own story. You know, I think we did that for our daughter the other day. We just gave her blank pages, and we let her scribble. And she's also like a busybody, like your daughter sounds like she is. And she actually made up her own story. And yeah, it wasn't completely coherent, but you know, she felt so proud that she'd made up the story. And so it's to balance that. Yes, you want to tell them what the actual story says, you know, but you also want to allow them to have that freedom, you know, to express themselves and just, yeah, be who they are. You know, you have the ones who sit quietly and listen and ask their questions at the end, but then you have the ones that want to constantly engage the material. So I would really definitely encourage that.
I suppose I was the earlier version, you know, I sat down and I quietly listened. So I suspect this genetic makeup must come from my other person. But before I sleep on the couch, any advice you'd want to give to parents out there, Dr. Zanele, about, of course, what they should be looking out for in terms of children's books, if they should be buying them and where they should be buying them, especially if they want to get a copy of your book, Thabo's Spectacles.
Yes, so the exciting thing is there is a lot of children's literature that's come out, and a lot of it locally as well by local authors. So one platform I got introduced to by a friend, and I've been fortunate to now also get my own work on there, is Ethnic Kids. So I would definitely follow Ethnic Kids. They also let you know of new books that have come out. They can courier the books to you. You can go and select a few books on there. And yeah, they're quite good with that. And other platforms, there's quite a few bookstores also online, just battling to think of the names. For my books also, you can get them at tlakamedia at gmail.com. You can email me there and then I can give you details further as to how to get them, and I can courier to you, or you can collect at my husband's office in Arcadia and Pretoria Street. And yeah, there's also a bookshop in Melville that's selling the books, and another books for me that's also online, that's also selling Thabo Spectacles. And I guess to say to parents, you know, I think be kind to yourselves as parents. You know, I think sometimes we may want to put a lot of pressures on ourselves, but I just believe as a parent, just really be attentive to your children, and you would have done the world of good for them. Spend that time with them, make bedtime reading a ritual, or whatever time you decide to read with them. Make that a thing where they actually even remind you, and it becomes just a part of the family life. And yeah, I think let's also teach our children about our history, teach them about their roots. You know, how many children actually know what Women's Day is about? How many children know the history of this country? So yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of literature out there in attempts to try and help that, you know. So yeah, so I think engage the children, and you'll really be surprised at how much you can impart into their lives just by doing that.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Tlaka, for teaching us today and really educating us really on the importance of children's books. I think it's been a privilege that you come through on a Women's Day such as this, and obviously teach us all these things and tell us all this stuff. We really appreciate it. And I hope, of course, that, you know, for everybody who's listening out there, you've heard it for yourselves. do get those children's books. They are mind shapers. They do make a transformational effect, in children's minds. So it's not just all fun and games when reading to them. They're actually learning from that and picking up stuff from there. So I think, Dr. Tlaka, thank you for coming through. I appreciate your time. And we hope, of course, you're blessed beyond measure going forward.
Thank you so much, Ronald. Thank you so much. It's been a great interview.
All right, and everybody else watching out there, it's a good evening. We pretty much will be seeing you next time, next week, same time, of course, as we talk about a different topic with another lady who's also doing great things on this Women's Month. Thank you very much, everybody. We hope to see you soon. Adios.